Well, a very good evening and welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. And I'm sure most of you have just finished watching the England game against Germany. Well, almost, eh? Not bad. The last 15 minutes was fantastic. Bit like watching West Ham United, I guess. We wait until the second half and before we actually start getting into the game. But all fair play, finished on a high. Looking forward to the World Cup now. And let's see what that will bring. I'm not going to scrutinise the England game. I can talk to you about Bowen and about Declan and about Kehrer and players like that who are involved, and that's what I'll do. I'll gloss over the players, the West Ham United players that have been involved or not involved in international action over the past week or so. Just a few more days, a few more games to go, and then we can also focus back on the domestic league and what David Moyes might do this coming Saturday in this crucial, vital game against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And will he adopt a similar approach to what Southgate did and start throwing on some attacking players to make a difference in a game? Let's see, hey? But before we do all that, let's see who's in the chat and say hello to you all. Good evening to you, James. How are you? Actually, let me check. No one's telling me they can't hear me, I hope. So I'm going to go right down to the bottom. Yeah, no one's saying we can't hear you, so that's good. I'll go all the way back up to the top. Good evening to you, James. How are you? 2 in the chat. Yeah. Good evening. Thank you, James. P-Gads. Darken the city, night in a wire. Darken the city, night is a wire. Good evening, P-Gads. I hope you're well. Didn't understand any of that. Good evening to you, Fat Gitchenko. Newman's File Mammals has a list of scouted managers to replace Dinosaur Dave. It's password protected. Moyes can't access it, but GSBK can. Do you think they're ready to replace him? I think they would have done it almost immediately as soon as the international period broke. So I don't think we're going to see a new manager over the next few days or so. Like I said, let's see what happens moving forward, going towards the World Cup. Fat Gitchenko again. DM is a one-trick dino, plays 9 defenders, hoof it to Antonio. Other dinos have different tricks. One is waving their tail or roaring to scare. Or was that to score? Vinay, team selection for Wolves under scrutiny. That's wishful thinking. Moyes will pick his favourites again. I'm not so sure, mate. I don't think he's going to have much choice, but we'll go into the team selections later on. Good evening to you, Sharky. Still, you're not on holiday. Not yet, but I will be next month. And I'm trying to work out what I'm going to do with the West Ham Voice when I'm away. I'm away nearly 3 weeks. But someone's got to do it. Good evening to you, Neil. How are you? 6:15 a.m. Bit late for you, 6:15 a.m., Neil. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Keith. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Good evening, Mr. Pepper. I hope you're well. Good evening, Mr. Clarkson. Stella's choking on this chicken. No chicken. No, the missus won't let me eat meat, mate. No, I've got to eat all this. What did we have tonight? It was fish. It's fish or veg or fish and veg. And when she's out, I get the steak out. I've got one in the freezer. Good evening, Daniela. How are you? 21:46 here in the UK. 21:40? Surely not, because I came on at 1:45. Good evening, Martin. How are you? Australian time. Keith, let's have a sing song to get morale boosted. Well, that wasn't too bad an effort in it for England, was it? A bit lackluster in the first half. We woke up in the second. Like I said, a bit like West Ham, I guess. Ralph, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. James, I checked Ladbrokes earlier and they said they had Stella Evans being 15 minutes late. Well, there you lost out. You missed out, mate. Who else have we got? Happy Hammer. Good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Chris Biggs, how are you, mate? So I predict Moyes will not make any changes for... Let's see. I'm going to give you my predicted 11. I could be completely wrong, but I'm hoping we'll get 1 or 2 changes at least from the last lineup. Good evening, Howard. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Mr. Ingram, how are you? Carol was playing, I know, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. That's how up to date I am. I was watching the game and I was making notes. Mind you, I don't know what happened in the other game. I do know. Well, I'll get to that when I talk about internationals. Kehrer was one of Germany's better players tonight. He absolutely was. Really shows when he plays his natural right back. Well, is he a natural right back? I don't know, because I think he is naturally a centre back, but he's very good at playing right back as well. But it was very good to see him in that position. And you're absolutely right. I thought he had a really decent game. Good evening, Foxes. How are you, mate? Good evening, Clive. How are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, Mr. Steve. WHU, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Kalispera to you, mate. How are you, Sarif? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Hammerette, how are you? Saying hello to everybody. That's nice. Good. Little community going on. Good evening, Trini. You're early, Trini. You normally turn up more or less at the end of the show, but nice to see you. Is it you that turns up at the one of you does? Well, I don't know. Anyway, Pat Holland fan. Good evening to you, mate. Good morning to you. I hope you're well. Chris, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. I'm very well. X saying today, Moyes is the man, and they take 100%. Yeah, it's been, the story came out last week that the board were backing David Moyes. I'd expected nothing different, to be quite honest with you. I would have been very, very surprised if they'd had said anything different. Of course, they've got to say that. They've got to back him. But I actually think they will back him. And I think... as I've said in a couple of shows that I've done over the past week or so, that I think he's got until the World Cup. But it's going to be all eyes on Saturday and what team selection he makes, because I think that's going to be crucial. If he wants to shoot himself in the foot, then he's going to pick the same team, isn't he? And then maybe the odds that he might be going sooner, well, depending on the result, the odds that he might be going sooner rather than later might be cut even more. But I think he's, of course, the board were bound to back him without a doubt. Clive, you got two accounts going. Well, which one are you, Budgie or Clive tonight? Or, that's it, you're on mod mode. Thank you, mate. Who else have we got in the chat tonight? Let's see. Chris, evening. Hope you're well. I'm very well. Yeah. You've done that one. You've done it twice. You caught me out. Who else have we got? Sharky. Neil is made of strong stuff. He's away. I did say that. I don't think Neil ever sleeps. It must be the air down there. Trini, that game was nothing until the last 15 minutes. Can't see any of those teams on that performance winning the World Cup. No, they weren't. It wasn't exciting, was it? But they woke up. They woke up in the last 15 minutes. Hammerhead. Kehrer started as a right back, played for PSG a lot as a fullback. He did indeed. And also more than 25 games for Germany as well. But that's his natural position. You're probably right. I think he started life as a centre back. I think he played as a right back in the last season at PSG. I make you right there, and you're probably right about Germany as well. It's good though, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Jeff, good evening to you. Need big support on Saturday, but with a train strike plan. Fucking awful. I mean, what a shame, really, that the train strike is on first game back. It will affect the crowds. It will affect a number of people. What's in favour is the fact that it's on early evening. What is it, 5:30 kickoff or whatever it is. I think that's in its favour under the floodlights, etc. So if there are less fans there than normal, I think it will help that it's actually an evening game. I know that sounds weird, but I think it will help. Trini, I watch. We all been watching Kehrer, haven't we? We've all, because I would like, I like what I've seen. He looked solid at right back, nothing special, but he looked special. He looked special at centre back. This is the one good thing about Kehrer. He can play very decently in both positions, and I'm going to talk about him later on. Not 24 hours. I actually had sleep last night. Woke up to watch England versus Germany. I bet you had about half an hour. If you're really honest, Neil, let's be honest. You had about half an hour's sleep. James, to be fair, Slaphead played very well apart from that one mistake. Kehrer was spared that in our last game, to be honest. Stop. Okay, why don't we just start off with a few domestic things, shall we? Very, very briefly. Let's get that comment out, and I'll come back to your comments in a minute. But very briefly, the women's team back in action. They played their second game of the Women's Premier League at the weekend, and they lost 2-0 to Man United. Apparently, the scoreline didn't really tell the whole story. It was a much closer game, but they were really unlucky. West Ham had a goal disallowed. Thought we halved the deficit, but it was ruled out for offside. So unlucky to them, but they keep marching on, they'll be okay. Next up, a couple of players out on loan at the moment. Didn't affect League One and League Two. Dan Chester played for Colchester in their 1-0 defeat against Rochdale at the weekend. He played 83 minutes of a game. That's but couldn't unlock their defence. Rochdale went 1-0 up with a first half penalty. And Thierry Nevers was instrumental in getting his side a point. Port Vale at home to Carlisle United, where a mazy run and then a pass to the Nathan Mariah Welsh got them their goals. So well done to him. So let's go to internationals, shall we? Let's talk about that before we sort of talk about all the other. Well, we're going to mainly talk about David Moyes and what's going to happen on Saturday. So you've all talked about it, haven't you? Thilo Kehrer, started at right back, played the second half of the game against Hungary on last Friday. And today he started at right back and he looked extremely comfortable, didn't he? He looked decent. He looked, he looked decent going forward. One could argue maybe he should have had a penalty where he had his shirt pulled in the penalty box. But it's good that we saw him in that position. And like people have been saying, Hammerhead has said it, etc. He's seen him play at right back before. And I think it bodes well. It gives David Moyes an option. So it was fantastic to see him play in that position. He's just going to become a bit of a legend at West Ham, to be quite honest with you. I think he's got a fantastic engine on him. He's a great ball player, very comfortable on the ball. And the fact that he can play in those two positions comfortably, right back and centre back, I think David Moyes should take note. We had, of course, Declan. Took up his usual place in midfield against Germany. He did all right, but nothing special from what we expect from Declan today. Played in the game against Italy as well last week, and you get what you get with Declan Rice. He looked a little bit just like his form for West Ham, not 100%, but solid, I guess. Gianluca Scamacca, he was on the bench tonight. I don't know if he came off the bench at all during the game against Hungary tonight. I'm not sure what the result of that was, but he looked quite lively in the game against England on Friday. The header, he got himself into a good position for that header in the first half where it hit the bar. I think, he's sprightly, he's lively. And it was good to see what he was like with players who playing a lot closer to him. I quite enjoyed seeing Scamacca play against England. I think he was half decent. Emerson played in the final minutes of the game against England, but he was nowhere to be seen against Hungary tonight. I don't know, and I don't want to speculate, but he wasn't even on the bench. There was an awful lot of talk about him starting tonight, and we thought Roberto Mancini was going to mix the team around and change the formation to a 3-5-2. And a lot of people thought that Emerson would start as a left wing back, but he wasn't even on the bench. So I don't know if that was a tactical choice not to play him, or whether that was something to do with the player himself, if he was injured or picked up a knock or anything like that. But as soon as we find out, obviously we'll let you know on this channel. Alphonse Areola, interesting. He played in 2 games over the last couple of days, and Hugo Lloris was injured, so Areola took his opportunity to be the number 1 for France. He did exceptionally well against Austria last week, where France won 2-0. But in the game on Sunday against Denmark, France lost 2-0. Having said that, Areola still pulled off a couple of fine saves, but couldn't keep Denmark out in the final games in the Nations League. But it was good to see Areola have a bit of game time. And he got quite a lot of praise from some of the newspapers and social media columns, etc., suggesting that Areola deserves to be playing in goal for West Ham rather than sitting on the bench. Don't know what you guys think, but I'm going to briefly talk about that later on as well. We had, of course, Lucas Paquetá. He played for Brazil last week in the 3-0 friendly win against Ghana, and they face Tunisia on Tuesday, Brazil, and we'll find out if Paquetá starts that game as well. Maxwell Cornet, of course, picked up his 29th cap for the Ivory Coast last week when they played the 2-1 win over Togo in an international friendly, and they've got a game on Tuesday as well against Guinea, so we'll let you know again if he plays in that game. Elsewhere, Vladimir Coufal and Thomas Souček were on the wrong side of a 4-0 defeat to Portugal at the weekend. Coufal and Souček both started the game, and let's gonna be honest, neither of them had good games. And I'm sure we're going to, when I talk about the possible team selection coming on Saturday, we're going to talk about both those players in a bit more depth. Souček got pulled off with something like about 13 minutes to play. Vladimir Coufal played the whole game. Souček got absolutely slated in the media for his performance. It was suggested it was lackluster. He looked there, no shine, no energy, completely lost his form, etc. Didn't control the midfield at all. It's a worry, isn't it, that he's taken what the form the bad form that he started off at West Ham, and a lot will say finished off the last season in bad form as well at West Ham. He's taken that into the internationals, and you kind of look at the internationals and you kind of hope, and it's what Declan Rice said before the first game against Italy. The minute you pull on the international shirt, the England shirt, it gives you that extra oomph and that extra sort of that extra energy to sort of do good, play for your country, etc. And you can carry that form back into your domestic season. And unfortunately, neither Souček or Coufal did that. And that is a concern. They've got another game to play on Tuesday against Switzerland. It will be very interesting to see whether Coufal and Souček play. Souček is the Czech international captain as well. Some players on loan, but on an international duty. Nikola Vlasic was involved in the 3-1 win over Austria when he created a goal in the Nations League for them. And he's been talking about his move, hasn't he, to Torino, and talking about being, sort of alive again, free again, reborn, or whatever comments he made. He talked about how there's quite a huge difference mentally between his time at West Ham and his time at Torino. And he said everything is going well. He's working hard. He knows there's a lot to do, but he knows he'll benefit. But what's interesting and what people will sort of pick up on, especially about David Moyes and his management style, is he said what counts is to play consistently, and which is what I'm doing here. I feel trusted by everyone, and there's nothing I can complain about. Quite interesting comments. They could be barbed, or maybe you can just take them on face value, and he's only talking about Torino and not talking about West Ham. But you can't help but link that back to West Ham, and you can't help but think about, the way he was being managed last season. He's playing centrally. He plays centrally for Croatia. He's playing centrally for Torino, and he's making the most of it. Whereas, as we all know, when he played for West Ham, the bit part roles that he had, always out wide, always on the right or always on the left, but very rarely in the middle of the park. And it was interesting comments that he made. And then when you start thinking about other players that kind of don't want to be at West Ham or have now left West Ham, is Sonny Perkins, who played for the England under-19s at the weekend, where they smashed Georgia 6-0. And Perkins picked up a 33-minute hat-trick, starting from the 9th minute through to the 33rd minute. I'm still not, I don't know about Perkins. I know the disabled team, the Leeds fans that watch this program, have waxed lyrical about Perkins and what they've seen when he's been at Leeds. I still don't know whether he's going to become a great Premier League player or a Premier League player, full stop. We don't know that. He's still young, but it's interesting that he's actually doing well. He's picking up his form at Leeds. He's picking up his form for the England under-19s as well. But as I said in the show last week, we've also got our own England under-19, 17-year-old Divine Mbama, who also made the England team, the same team. Now, Mbama was on the bench, but only just recently joined. He's slightly behind Perkins, but he's a player that we could be looking at. And if he goes anywhere near, and I actually personally think, from what I've seen of both players, I think Mbama is a better player, a better striker, a more natural, prolific goal scorer. And if we can nurture him, but use him, you know, like most players use him, who knows? We might not worry about the fact that Perkins has left. So that's briefly it for roundup of. Oh no, it's not. I forgot to mention a couple of who are these? Because I haven't got my notes. Yes, I have. I have got my notes. Northern Ireland under 19s. We've got 3 players in the Northern Ireland under 19s. Michael Forbes, who's the captain of the Northern Ireland under 19s, Patrick Kelly and Callum Marshall, all represented their team at the weekend. So let me just read my notes properly. Both came up. Patrick Kelly and Callum Marshall came off the bench against the Netherlands, but were unable to record a victory for the Northern Ireland second match in their Group 13 2022-23 UEFA European Under-19s Championship qualifying round. Try saying that when you're not drunk. Anyway, their next game is on Tuesday as well against Moldova. So fantastic. We've got these youngsters. All right, Perkins has gone, but we've got Mbama. We've got Michael Forbes, who also captains the under-18s team. We've got Patrick Kelly, Callum Marshall. Callum Marshall, if you watch this show on a regular basis, you know he's smashing the goals in quite regularly for the under-18s at West Ham. So that's a brief roundup of the internationals. And of course, the next thing we've got to talk about is the big news of last week was the return of Mark Noble. Actually, before I do that, why don't I go in the chat and catch up with that? Otherwise, I'm going to be about an hour behind as I usually am. So let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Dabs. How are you? The Wolves game isn't live, is it? Well, it will be if you're at the stadium. Sorry, mate. I think it's on TV. I could be wrong. I don't know, but I think it's on TV. Sharky. Shoe bills keep you awake, mate. Neil, shoe bill, Australian, who knows what they're talking about. Ken, good evening to you, mate. Need to win the next 2 of the next 3 games and play weakened team in the Conference League, Premier League more important. It's interesting, mate. I just, you know, I talked briefly, I think it was last week, I can't remember when now, about, you know, if David Moyes is going to continue with having 2 teams, you know, having a cup team and a Premier League team, maybe he ought to consider who the first 11 should be in each of those. And again, I'm going to get to that in a minute about the team that I'd like to see him play this weekend. What will constitute a weakened team? You know, or because last year you could say, or last season you could say, a number of players. You look at a number of players and go, yeah, they're not as good as the player that's on the pitch, or he's not as good, etc., etc. This season, I'm looking at the bench and I'm looking at the team out there, and form aside, of course, form comes into it, but form aside, you could argue your bench is almost as strong as, if not as strong or stronger than the first 11. So I'm going to go into that in a minute, though. But what constitutes, you know, the weaker team, or what constitutes? Who would you have in your strong team? And who would you have in your so-called weaker team? I'd be interested to find out, and I'll read some of those comments out later on. Hammerhead, Kerr is 100% our next right back. Yeah, I mean, if Moyes has been watching tonight, he would have been interested in what he said. But then again, they scouted him. Newman and Moyes have scouted him. They would know that Kerr can play as a right back. Absolutely. Trini got up and down and fired in some dangerous crosses. I'm guessing you mean Kerr. Hammerhead, women's football, mate, got to do it. It's part of West Ham. It's part of West Ham. Have you seen how quickly I flitted over it? I couldn't have gone any quicker. Hello, Lee. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining, mate. Nice to see you here. Clive, Beanie, where's Beanie? Is she here? Well. How are you? Our Jazz and yeah, how are you, Beanie? I hope you're well. I haven't seen you for ages. It's Neil here tonight as well. Neil, the women played some good attacking football, which is more than the men's team have been playing. There you go. You see? There you go. Trini, the good thing about him at right back is pace. Sterling could not outpace him, and he tried. Good point. I mean, Moyes, have you been what? There she is. Say hello to me as well. I hope you're well. Nice to see you here. Who else have we got? Steve. When a Gerds gets back, Kerr at right back is a no-brainer. Yeah. Or why not Kerr and a Gerd as the central defenders? You know, they both neat and tidy with their, well, we haven't seen a Gerd yet in a West Ham, well, not in a competitive game, but both neat and tidy with their feet, good, solid defenders. Why not have them both in? But anyway, yes, I agree. Hammerhead, Areola is miles above Fab now. I think that, but bottom line is, what does Moyes think, I guess? Good evening to you, Mandy. How are you? OD'd with Nations League. You know, I did watch the last two England games. I had my head half at watching the Italy game last week and half not. I was like, we were out as well. I think we got back for the second half, and you know, I kind of wasn't really, but I was interested tonight. Well, I almost fell asleep in the first half, but yeah, we did better in the second half, didn't we? Good evening to you, Mr. Shios. How are you? Kerr is class right back when everyone is fit. A lot of people are saying it. A lot of people are calling for it. Hammerhead, let's hope Bowen not being used will ignite that fire again. I'm worried about Bowen. I won't lie to you. I'm worried that him being dropped completely out of the England squad, you don't know what that's going to, because that could mean the end of his England ambition for the World Cup. You know, it could do. Neil, good evening to you. I hope you're well. And Hammerhead, Reece Oxford looking mustard. I can't lie. I know. Been reading some very good things about Reece Oxford, and it's taken him a while. He's got his head straight. He's playing good football. You just know, don't you? A Premier League football team are going to come in for him. You can just see it happening. Steve, good evening to you. Much better England performance by the individual errors. Wouldn't mind Luke Shaw at West Ham. Apart from the money he earns, I wouldn't mind Luke Shaw at West Ham United either, to be quite honest with you. Mandy, we might not have bought Skamaka if he had got more game time. We might not. Oh, you mean I don't get. We might not have bought Skamaka if it got more game time. What do you mean? Someone else might have bought him? Is that what you mean? James, I love this show. It's so cool that Green Street Elites follow it with a late show. Oh, do you, mate? Clive, you didn't tell me that. I could just come off and come on your show straight after and talk more crap than I normally do. It's on Sky. There you go. It's on Sky. But let's not promote Sky. They earn enough money as it is. Beanie, still don't know what Sky is. Too technical. It'll just be... It's better to be there, is all I can say. Just be at the game. Don't watch it on TV. I know some can't. Ralph, yup, Fire Stick. There you go. Ralph is promoting something totally illegal. Trodge, good evening to you. Got to get them running again before we worry about much else. Yeah, the running stats and all the other stats from West Ham. What a surprise. You know, the first thing, if you remember, what that David Moyes did was to get them running again, to get them, you know, and he said, if you don't run, you don't play. Do you remember that comment? And all of a sudden, we're not running and he's playing them all. So, I don't know. Who else we got? Good evening to you, Damon. How are you? Oh, not Damon, Eamon. I hope you wait. Sorry, but I don't rate Kara. Eamon, did you not watch it? I don't know, mate. I don't know. I think you're the only one that won't. I hope you're well, Eamon. Thanks for joining. Snazzy, good evening to you. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening, Mr. Shinegold. How are you? Don't worry. You know I was going to be late. You've only missed half an hour, so don't worry about that. Hammerette, Soufal could have done with a bit of a rest. Bit concerning what they said to Souček about him losing his spark since with us, though. Well, not since he's been with us. I mean, let's not forget the first couple of seasons with us. He had one Hammer of the Year, etc. But he's certainly lost his spark lately, without a doubt. Hammerhead. Agerd and Zuma in centre back, both French speaking. Emerson and Kera at left back and right back. Yeah, I like that. Eamon. If Kerr isn't a natural right back, I can't understand how we'd be better at right back than he is at centre back, and I'm not impressed with him at right back. I don't know, mate. I disagree, and I think a lot of people are disagreeing with you. Would disagree with you here as well. Hammersdad, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. We could do with an attacking midfield player. Nothing in the middle at the moment. Vlasic. Well, we actually have got a lot of attacking midfield players. They just have to be played. And I'll talk, like I said, I'll come to that in a moment. Pat Holland fan, my strong team. Areola, Johnson. We don't know if Johnson's back yet, but Areola, Johnson, Kera, Agerd, Emerson, Downs, Rice, Paquetá, Antonio, Skamaka, Corday. Not bad. Yeah. Good evening to you, Gary. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Who else we got? Yeah, good for him, Oxford. Hope he continues to do well. You know, he just needed to get his head straight. And it looks like over in Germany, he's finally done that, which is good. Oh, Wednesday night, not Monday night. See, you know, Neil, you mean you have even more crap to talk? Mate, I've got loads of crap to talk about. And I love the fact that you all listen to it. Don't all run away now. Eamon, I mean, I'm not impressed with Kehrer centre back, and I don't think he will fare much better at right back. We're in the bottom three for a reason. It's not because our defence has been pulling up trees. I think we're in the bottom three because, yes, we have been leaking goals. I wouldn't put that down to Kehrer. And I know what you might say, one own goal and a penalty given away. The own goal, unfortunate. He had a player behind him who would have put it in anyway. Was that the Spurs game? I think it was. And the penalty, it was left completely exposed. This was early in the season when Zuma decided to go and become a striker, and he lost the ball midway in the in the opposing half's area, and Kehrer was the only player left. Last man standing. I think that's harsh on Kehrer, to be honest, Eamon. But accept your views, mate. Vino, I think whoever is in the team, Moyes will continue to bypass midfield. And well, this is it. It's not just about the selection. It's also about the tactics, isn't it? Paquetá would be forced to play defensive, and he has dropped deep, hasn't he? Sharky, Jamaica play Wednesday. What they do, they haven't played yet. 1 o'clock in the morning here is they play. 1 o'clock in the morning here is, and he's playing in America. Oh, fuck me. Anthos, how are you, mate? All wonder what a West Ham release 11 looked like. Must admit, other Premier League teams are looking good. Losing Perkins to Leeds was a blow. I'll be really, really honest with you. I don't know if losing P as big a blow as we think. I genuinely do think we've got, but I mean, it's not good to lose any young players. Don't get me wrong. But, I think perhaps with Perkins, he might make it. He might. I'm not 100% sure that he will, to be quite honest with you. You might get, we've had other players, young players that have left thinking the grass is greener and it's not happened for them. I genuinely do think, and I'm not saying it because Mbama's with us, but I think Divine Mbama is a better striker than Perkins. But let's see. Time will tell, I guess. I hope you're well, Anthos. I'm coming to Cyprus in October, by the way. In Protera. So, you can buy me a beer. Eamon, Germany let in 3 goals tonight in a 8 second half minutes. That doesn't shout great defending for me. No, I agree. But it can't just all be on Kehrer. But I take your point. Hammerhead, England's goals were created centrally. Eamon, Rice started 2 of the goals. Did you not watch? See, so, different views. But I accept all views. I don't agree with all views, but I accept all views. Shame Antonio plays for Jamaica. Hammer's dad. Think he could have battered the Germans tonight. Well, his time has come and gone, isn't it? His time has come and gone. Good evening to you, Pat. I hope you're well, mate. We're all waiting for you, mate. I actually didn't say anything. I was on mute for half an hour until you turned up. I only turned the microphone on a few seconds ago. Trini, we've missed loads of chances also. It's not just on the defence. Absolutely. Yeah, good point. We have missed a lot of chances. Usual suspect. Good evening to you. Sign Lord Maguire and all our problems will disappear. No thanks. I hope you're well, mate. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got in the chat before I go into the next part of the show? I'm down the... Good. Now I can go on to Mark Noble. So what do you guys make of Mark Noble and his return and the new post that's being created for him as sporting director? Look, I won't lie. I think it's a good thing. I think it's good to have Mark Noble back around West Ham United. I think the players will benefit for it. I think it will just give the players a lift. I'm sure the fact that it's been announced, even though he doesn't start his new role until January, I think it's a boost for the players. I think it's a really good boost, certainly for Declan Rice. He talked about Mark Noble, about how he, took a lot of advice for him, looks up to him, a role model, etc., etc. And I think it's a really, really good thing that Mark Noble's coming back. I really do. It's an interesting role. The way it's been described, he'll be working with David Moyes. He'll be working closely with the board, etc. And he'll be working with the academy about putting input into the development of players, as well as their well-being, etc. But it sounds like, for want of a better description, it sounds like a director of football role. Especially when he talked about working alongside Moyes and the board about player recruitment and all that sort of stuff. And I was sitting there thinking, this is really quite interesting because it does sound like a director of football, for want of a better description. And I just wonder how much input he's really going to have over player recruitment. And it's going to be interesting to also see the development of players. And I remember that the time when Diangana was sold at West Ham, and how Noble was quite upset at that, and he put a tweet out, didn't he, or whatever social media platform he used or uses about his upset, about he quite felt let down because Diangana did what he was asked to do. If you remember, he sort of broke through, had a couple of good games, looked pretty decent, and he was told, go out on loan. He went out on loan for a season, smashed it, came back expecting to be part of the team, and sold like that. And Mark Noble was upset about it, and a few other players were upset about it as well. And I think maybe what Noble's got to make sure he does in this new role is take the emotion out of this role, because you're going to have to make some tough decisions, or he is going to have to be party to making some tough decisions at West Ham. There may be players in the academy, for example, that maybe David Moyes might turn around and say, I don't think they're good enough. I think they need to be moved on. There may be players in the senior team. I wonder what input. It's going to be interesting to see what role he really has at West Ham United, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm just wondering now. What keeps going around in my head is, what is he going to do specifically? How much input is he going to have? How much influence is he going to have as to what happens at West Ham United? I think time will tell. He talked about the role. I see it as a positive. He talked about it. He said he spoke to David Moyes about it before he was offered it, etc. And they had a good conversation about it and how they can see each other working together, etc. And position, he said, he can grow in and develop both personally and professionally. And what better place to come to and feel part of the fabric again? Well, he's never really left and have an influence. But like I said, I just think it's going to be interesting to see exactly how much influence he has over the whole thing. Right. Okay. A bit of transfer speculation. I know that's ridiculous, but let's talk about a few players that we've been linked to. Good grief. January can't come soon enough, can it? So we might as well start all the rumours now. Davide Fratese, who was on the bench alongside Gianluca Scamacca tonight in the game against Hungary. There's reported interest in him, and apparently Fratese is not apparently. Fratese and Scamacca are lifelong friends. They've known each other for years. They played in the same club at Sassuolo. Of course, they play both in the Italian team as well. And according to press, Tottenham and West Ham United are both interested in this player. 23-year-old midfielder. Quite in the mould we've heard of Conor Gallagher, so that bodes well, doesn't it? And given the special relationship, we're rumored to be interested in him in January, and we might make a bid for him. And given the relationship that West Ham United have forged with not only Sassuolo in buying Scamacca, which was done amicably, etc., but also the fact that Scamacca is a lifelong friend of Fratese. Could that sway the decision if we really are in for him? Oh, bloody! Honestly, when I hear about transfer stories at this time of year, it does make me wonder. Have we got nothing else to talk about? And clearly not. But I'm going to carry on because we're also interested in this man. Bono is his name. Well, Yacine Bono, the Sevilla and Moroccan international goalkeeper, 31 years of age. Apparently, we've taken note of the performances that he's put in over the last season at Sevilla, and there's several clubs apparently interested in him. Look. This might have a more of a standing because we're looking at Fabianski. Fabianski is in his last year of his contract. He's got a year extension that can be triggered if West Ham wants. But if they don't trigger it, he'll be 38 by the time he finishes this contract. If they don't trigger it, then we're going to have to look for a replacement. Now, a lot of people will say Areola is the perfect replacement, and we just need a number 2 for Areola. Whereas Bono, as he's got that on the back of his shirt, Bono is a player that apparently we've been linked with. Who knows? Another January transfer move. Do I think it's likely? No, I don't. Next up is Mikhailo Mudryk, the third Ukrainian that we've been linked to in as many weeks. Mudryk is, we were linked already to Atalanta's Ruslan Malinkovsky, Dynamo Kiev's Viktor Tsigankov, and now now this player who plays for Shakhtar Donetsk. 21 years of age, attacking midfielder. Apparently is mashing it up in the Champions League, scoring a goal against Celtic and scoring a goal and assisting 2 goals in the game against RB Leipzig. And, well, interesting. Is valued at around £20 million. He's got his contract with the Ukrainian club is till 2026. So interesting link. But again, we've got a plethora of attacking midfielders that Moyes ain't playing. So is he going to go out and buy yet another one? I don't know. I'm not so sure. Right. I'm going to get into the final part. This is how short this show is tonight. There's not a lot more to talk about. Actually, let me look at my slides. Yes, I'm going to get into the Moyes thing. So let's catch up with the chat and then we'll go into the Moyes chat, shall we? So, who we got? Hammerhead. Eamon, I know Rice don't play for Germany, but the goals were central, not on the wings where Kehrer played. So saying it was his fault, 3 goals is bull. What did Eamon say? We were screaming out for a left back last season, and yet here we are stuck with Creswell and Emerson. Doesn't look like an upgrade on him. I don't know. I think Emerson is a kind of a half decent left wing back, to be honest with you. Natural left back, I would agree. Good evening, Lee. How are you, mate? If West Ham lost to Wolves on Saturday, do you think Moyes will be sacked? No, I don't. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I think if the board were going to get rid of Moyes, they would have done it right at the beginning of the international break, and they haven't. So I don't think it will be good, but I don't think he'll be sacked. Keith, we'll wait until Maguire gets old, slow, and crappy before we sign him. Oh, wait. Andrew, love the fact that Mark Noble is back. He can hoover the boardroom carpet as well as sweep the dressing room floor. Steve, Stell, we are planning a holiday to Cyprus next year. Please let me know when you're not there. James, I thought it was a very entertaining game tonight, but are the Neggies firing the toys out still? I haven't been following. I don't know. I don't know what the response was like after the game because I got straight onto this show. Bill, Noble's first job is to replace Warburton. That's an interesting one. I don't know if he's got his coaching badges, so I don't know if he'd be able to do that. But maybe in the long run, I don't know. Interesting. Anthos, great to see Noble back. Not sure about him being suited and booted, though. He's a tracksuit lad. I'm sure he just did that for the cameras. I'm sure he'll turn up in tracksuit from there on in. Eamon, with the Noble signing, I can see good times ahead for us. I see this start of the new West Ham. Once the Davids sell up and West Ham spending big every transfer window, DM is on borrowed time. I'm going to let you into a secret, Eamon. The board aren't leaving. I know everybody thinks next year is the year when the board sell up. The board will keep a vested interest. Sullivan certainly will. If gold is quite old now, and we don't know what will happen to his shares, but I can guarantee you David Sullivan's going nowhere. I know people think that the board are going to sell up and Kretinsky's going to be our knight in shining armor. Don't wait up for it, mate. I'm afraid they're not gonna go, or certainly Sullivan won't. Clive, for me, Noble should be director of West Ham, period. He should be in full control of all matters. Like I said, I just wonder what this sporting director, because he's talked to, in the way it's been described, it almost sounds like a director of football role. Hammerhead. Just to have a much respected role model back amongst the players would be a huge lift and support for Rice, the squad, and the youth teams. Absolutely agree. Trodge, I hope he gets close to the training pitch. It's going to be interesting to see what role he really has. Absolutely. Good evening, Andy. Nobes' first job is to get short of that Warburton bloke. Since Piercy has gone and he has come in, the team has gone backwards. It's really interesting. Warburton. Beginning to ask myself the same sort of question, why? What's happened there? But like I say, I don't know if Noble has got his coaching credentials, so I'm not sure that he would be able to replace him. I don't know, but it is intriguing that we have gone backwards since Warburton's arrived. Keith, cannot underestimate the magnitude of the psychology that Noble has on the players and fans. Great to see him back. Absolutely agreed. Let's scroll down a little bit. Hammerhead. Noble will one day be the manager. We win things with it's written in the stars. Is it? Hammerhead, I want Raspadori. So did I, but unfortunately he's gone to Napoli. He was at Sassuolo with Scamacca, and there was talk in the summer transfer window that we were in for him, but we couldn't agree a deal. Napoli came in for him. I believe he's moved to Napoli. Trodge, Saka and Mount made a difference, much more desire. Didn't they just? Didn't they just? They came on with fire in their bellies, and they played brilliantly. That setup for Mount's goal, superb, absolutely superb. Usual suspect. Hopefully, it's more than just a token role like organising the Christmas party. That's what I'm hoping. I'm just really intrigued to see exactly what will happen when he comes in. Really intrigued. Keith, another. I know. Hammerhead. God no to Bono. He was terrible when we played Sevilla. See, it's really interesting. I don't know where these stories come from, to be honest with you. It's nowhere near transfer time, and having stories leaking out like this, it's slow. I look at the stories to put up, and I was beginning to struggle at some point. It's what am I going to talk about on Monday night? No games to talk about. A couple of the women's team played, the academy players didn't play, etc. One or two of the loan players played. That was about it. And it's like, what do I do here? And of course you do talk about the West Ham players that are on international duty, but to try and flesh it out was going to be difficult. So then, of course, these silly transfer stories come up. I don't, it ain't going to happen. Another goalkeeper still. Sorry, we've got that one. Bono is another Roberto. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what he's like as a goalie, to be quite honest with you. But I bet I'll make you right. He probably is. Speaking of keepers, I recently read that Roberto retired. From what? Was he ever a keeper? One of the worst fucking signings we've ever had in our entire fucking history of West Ham United. What an awful signing he was. Andrew, what's the point of talking about the January transfer window when not bedded in the players who brought in August? I agree. I actually 100% agree with you. Okay, I'm going to make it a point. No more talk about transfers-ish until January or just before. Keith, maybe if we played all our keepers, we might keep a clean sheet. Well, you can never have enough keepers on the bench. We got 2. I think we need 3. And no wonder Moyes is in for another keeper. We need 3. We need 3 keepers on the bench. This is where we're going wrong. Neil, it doesn't matter who we buy. They're only going to be on the bench anyway. Well, like I just said. Clive, oh my God, just been to the bathroom. It was quite a handful. Mate, I think that's more information that we all need. I hope you're not talking about what I think you're talking about. Steve, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, but I know you have now. Come and sit on the bench for West Ham United. Gary, did your balls fall in the water? Oh dear. Look, it's a bit too early to start talking all this nonsense. I'm trying to be serious here. Usual suspect. I've been watching him for quite a while. He looks like the real deal. Who? Sharky talked about. Are we talking about Bono? Oh, only the real. I got that. Well done. Eamon, Warburton is our worst signing this season. I don't rate him 1. I don't get it. I actually don't. I don't understand it. Yeah. Oh, anyway, let's move on. Maybe I'll do a special feature on Warburton sometime later in the season. Hammerhead, GSB again. No, they're not. I'm sorry, but they're not. Hammerhead again. Krasinski doesn't have loads of money. People act like he does. Most of his money is in property and investments. He is an investor. And I said this at the beginning when Krasinski came in and people were talking about speculating that he was going to buy West Ham out and spend a load of money. You're absolutely right, Hammerhead. The man is an investor. He's made a lot of money already at West Ham, despite the fact that he's invested money in it, etc. But he's making money. You do not put your money in if you're not going to get something out, and something quite substantial. I don't think the man wants to own West Ham United. He's in a good position. I'll make you right, Hammerhead. Good evening, Ian. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. GSP forever. You might not be too wrong there. Eamon, I will bookmark these comments. David's going nowhere. We will see. Well, you will see, mate. I'm telling you. I'll be maybe gold because of his age. But Sullivan, he still wants a vested interest in West Ham. Trudge, Krasinski's wife is 20 times richer than she is loaded. She's the woman to get to buy West Ham United out. I tell you. Usual suspects. Warburton ain't worth the dough. Good evening, MJ. I hope you're well. It's amazing what attacking players bring to a game, ain't it? I know, MJ. You're absolutely right. You joined just at the right time as well, because I'm going to go into the team selections that Moyes got in front of him for Saturday. Oh, Eamon, maybe that's where we're going wrong. No, not having three keepers on the sea. You agree now, Eamon? Neil, if he plays Souček again, I'm going to moan like you've never seen before. Anthos, time for I know it's night time over there. Cheers, Anthos, for joining. Much appreciated, mate. And mine's a beer in Protera on the 10th. Or no, on the 11th, because we arrived late on the 10th. So I'll see you there, Anthos. Victor, good evening to you. People keep on about Pearce. Our form has dipped even since last year. Pearce was at the club then, Europa League, papered over the crack. That's a really good point, Victor. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Our form dipped from last season. Oops, I'm sure Hammerit has got rid of Chat 69, but just in case, got rid of it as well. Oh, good grief. They really should come. They should just email me and say, can we sponsor your channel? And I'll gladly take a few grand off them. And then they can put up their dating site, best adult dating site, bloody rubbish. Right. Sharky. He's in the United Arab Emirates, Yarmolenko. He is. He's making a lot of money. James, nice bit of positivity there. You're spending too much time online. Have you considered yoga? Oh, I don't know. It's gone already. So let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Andrew, be nice to Warburton. He was a pain in my ass at school, and it's time he paid back. What, the same Warburton or some other Warburton? Who else have we got? Henry, good evening to you. Can we expect to have an interview with Kretinsky? I'd love to. I'd love to interview him. That would be fantastic. That very much, though. He's quite a private person, but there you go. Right. Let's go into the next part and the final part of this show. This is how short tonight is going to be. Have I done player updates? Yes, we have. I forgot to put the video up. So just for the sake of it. Yeah, I did do that. Saturday is going to be an interesting game in more ways than one. As we know, as people have said in the chat, you know, it's a game we've got to win. It's a game we've got to really put in a decent performance. And all eyes are going to be on the team selection. And all eyes are going to be on this man, David Moyes, and exactly what he's going to do. He's had a couple of weeks now where he will have done by the time we get to Saturday to really think carefully about team selection, really think carefully about the players that he himself, the senior players that he himself said has let him down, has been letting him down so far this season. He's got to be bold, hasn't he? He's got to be bold, and he's got to make some changes. And I think there are people will probably more or less agree, a number of players under scrutiny. And I think, unless you want to add to them, certainly Soufal, Creswell, Souček, Bowen, and Fornals. I think above all other players that have been starting fairly regularly in the first team, he's got to look at those five players in particular, and he's got to ask himself, what do I do with these five? Do I keep faith in them? Do I decide to change one or two of them? We've already said about, for example, Kehrer, who played at right back tonight for Germany, looked quite decent there. But David Moyes, we know he's a creature of habit. We know that it takes a lot for him to want to drop certain players. He has faith in them. But I think now, let's be honest with you, you know, some of these players have let him down, have let West Ham down. You know, some players, I think, for example, Fornals, I think is unfortunate. I don't think Pablo Fornals should continue to play as a left wing back, left-sided midfielder, whatever you want to call it. I think he's unfortunate for continuing to be played there. Soufal, you can argue at the moment, you know, with the injuries that we got to Ben Johnson and Harrison Ashby, we don't know if they're back yet. I guess over the course of this week, we will know. You know, Moyes kind of hasn't had much choice, but then again, as we've said, Kehrer looks to be a player that could possibly played at right back, but that all depends on what central defenders he's got available to him. But then you look at, in particular, Souček and Bowen. Look, two players who came in at the same time at West Ham United. What was it, 2.5 seasons ago, and did absolutely superbly for us in completely different ways, but both played their parts in not only helping us stay out of relegation that first season that they were here, but also they developed and they became fantastic players. But you cannot deny, as it stands right now, both players are really, really woefully out of form. And when it comes to Bowen in particular, sometimes you just got to take a player out the firing line in order for him to just sit back and reflect. And quite maybe he's had that now with England. I felt sorry for him not being picked in the England, not even in the on the bench tonight. And that might mean that could mark the end of his England ambition for the World Cup. So it's going to be really interesting what Moyes does. So let's start at right back, because we do have an option now. If both Ben Johnson and Harrison Ashby are not available for the next few games. David Moyes talked about Ashby. He said if he'd been available, he's carrying a groin injury. If he'd been available, he would have taken part in the game against Silkeborg the week before last. So you know Moyes has got Harrison Ashby in his mind. I dare say if Ben Johnson's fit, he's going to have Ben Johnson in his mind as well. But let's say, because we just don't know at this moment in time, both players are still out injured, then he's got Thilo Kehrer there. He can play. Soufal had an awful game for the Czech Republic at the weekend. So he's got Kehrer, and I know Eamon doesn't agree, but on the whole, we've seen Kehrer can play at right back, and he's got the pace as well. And I just wonder if Moyes makes this first decision, whether he would put Kehrer in over Soufal at the weekend at right back. That is pending whether he's got the players available to be able to do that in central defence. Then on the left side, it's interesting because I can't remember who just said it, that we've now got Emerson and he's no better than Cresswell. We haven't improved. I think Emerson as a left wing back, I think is decent. I think he's got pace. I think he's quite skillful. I think he can give us something in attack and in defence. I think he's a decent player. Cresswell, I'll be honest. But when I've looked at the way Cresswell's played over the last this season, he hasn't been the worst player on the pitch. I think certainly we can improve without a doubt. I think at the end of this season, there's going to be a big question mark because Cresswell's contract will come to an end. So there's going to be a big question mark as to what we do with the left back. Does Moyes extend his contract? Does Moyes keep him? I don't know. When it comes to the here and now, that is the only choice as it stands. If we play a 4 at the back, then who are you going to pick? Are you going to pick Emerson or are you going to pick Cresswell? I think if we play at 4 at the back, he's going to go with Cresswell. If we play a wing-back system, a 3 at the back, then you could argue that Cresswell could keep his place. And I don't think many people will deny the fact that in a back 3, when Cresswell's played in a back 3 central defence, he hasn't actually been that bad. The expectation of him is just to stay firm, defend, etc. At left back, he gets exposed a little bit more. He's slower, etc. So yes, at left back, when in a back 4, he's slower. But if Moyes decides to play a back 3 from here on in, and I've got a feeling he will, I think what he'll do is he'll try and shore up our defence and he'll try and keep it tight. I know a lot of people are not going to like that, but one of the things that probably has been on David Moyes' mind over the past week and a half in the international break is, what can I do to stop the goals coming in? And this might be one of them, playing a 3 at the back. And Cresswell may have a role to play at 3 at the back. And if he does, and then he plays 2 wing backs, that's where Emerson will come in. I've done that one. Central mid. Now, this is, I guess, the first bone of contention, really. Souček is just not on form. He hasn't been on form for a while. It's still a mystery as to what happened with Flynn Downs. Flynn Downs had a very, very good game against FCSB a couple of weeks back, and then he wasn't picked. We had a game that was postponed because of the Queen's death, etc. And then he didn't play against Silkeborg. And everyone, I certainly speculated, well, that means he's being kept for the game against Everton. He'll start the game against Everton. He didn't. And that baffled me completely. And I just sat here, and I think a lot of people sat at home or at the stadium, wherever you watched the game, and gone, what just went on? Why is Flynn Downs not on the pitch? If he wasn't on the pitch for Silkeborg, why was he not on the pitch against Everton? And I don't get that. because he had an excellent game against FCSB. And I think this is one of the first choices that Moyes will make. I think Moyes will bite the bullet. I think he will actually pick Flynn Downs at the weekend over Souček. And I think the fact that Souček hasn't had a good game for the Czech Republic might make Moyes make up his mind even more. I've got a feeling this will be the first decision that Moyes will make. Going back, a right back, I think he'll pick Soufal, but I think if he plays a back three, then Soufal, unfortunately not suited to it, he'll play Soufal as a right wing back. Left back, I think Cresswell, depending on who else is available, will be in a back three alongside Zuma and Kera maybe, or Dawson or whoever. And then on the left side, Emerson will play. But in the central of defence, at central of midfield, I think this is where he's got his first choice to make, his first real decision to make. And I've got a feeling he might just go for it and he might just pick Flynn Downs. I'd be worried. There are other options, though, that I haven't put up here, but there are other options alongside Declan if it's not Souček. He can play Lanzini there. He can even play Pablo Fornals alongside him. But I think he might go for it and he might put Flynn Downs in there. Then you look at the right side of attack, and Bowen is just not on form. It's just not happening for him at the moment. You know, it's funny because I think, what was it? The game against FCSB, he was given the penalty, I think. I can't remember now. But when he was given the penalty to take in the Europa Conference game, I said that was a clever move. That's going to give him the spark and the confidence to get going, get a goal, start flying. And it didn't happen for him. Against Everton, he just wasn't. It's nothing has been working for him since the start of this season. And Cornet is chomping at the bit. And Cornet can play in that position. And I just think Moyes has now got to play players who are in form. It's not because I think Bowen was all of a sudden a rubbish footballer. I just think Bowen just needs to maybe be a player, one of the few players that needs to start on the bench and put Cornet in as a replacement. Out on the left, I feel really sorry for Pablo Fornals because I don't think he's a bad footballer at all. I think he's much better suited playing in the centre, whether it be as a number 10 or, like I just mentioned, maybe even put him as far back alongside Declan Rice. But Benrahma, and I don't get this thing about, again, with David Moyes and the way he treats certain players. I think Benrahma deserves to play. I think he actually, interestingly, he's lost his place in the Algerian squad because he's not been playing. And I think that's a damn shame because Benrahma's been one of our brightest sparks this season. And yet Moyes is deciding to bench him rather than play him. And then you could go further. You know, other players, you could, the argument again, who plays in goal? Should it be Areola? Should it be? For me, Areola is a better keeper. Not just, look, they're both good shot stoppers. Fabianski's not really put a foot wrong, but it's Fabianski's distribution that lets him down. And you just know that Areola, when we've seen Areola play in the Europa Conference, and the way he lays the ball out, when he pumps it high, it's not just up in the middle for Antonio to run onto that Fabianski does. Areola's a little bit more careful. He plays it just inside the opposition's own half, and it's to the one side, so someone like Antonio can pick it up and turn and has room to run. He's a much better distributor of the ball. So you could argue that maybe Areola should be in that team as well. And then the last area is the striker. People are saying start Antonio, start Scamacca at this, together. I just don't think they suit each other. And I did a show last week and I talked about that, about their positioning and so on. Very different footballers. Yes, you can maybe put Antonio out on the right or even on the left and have Scamacca in the middle. Maybe that'll work, quite possibly. I think then you disrupt other players like Paquetá, like Cornet, etc., Benrahma and so on. So my team, if I was to be picking a team, I think this is the team that I would like to see on Saturday. I would like to see Areola in goal. But how many players have I got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got that's the team I want. I want 12 players on the pitch. I keep looking at it and I keep sort of seeing more players than I should have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's my starting 11, people. Okay. Forget the last. I'm literally going to erase the last 15 minutes of this show. So forget it. I'm not going to read any of your piss taking because I fucked up. Eamon, still, did I say my spelling was as bad as my tactical knowledge? That's why I said crease shirt with Noble on the back instead of Noble. You did. You confused me. I'm confused enough as it is. I can't even count tonight. And I don't know what's happened here. So there you go. That's the one that's staying. I'm going to get rid of this one now. That's my starting lineup. Let's scroll down. I'm not a legend. I completely screwed up, and I don't know what happened. I got sometimes you go sort of blind. You're looking at something and you think, yeah, I'm right, and then you think, no, I'm wrong. I don't know what happened there. So there's my 11 people. Okay, Andrew, I'm using the Tory method of counting. Stelios, Ford, man, I really screwed up. Snazzy. Downs, Rice, Paquetá, Benny, Cornet, Antonio should be the front six. Downs as a number 6 and Rice as a number 8 with Paquetá as another number 8. So there you go. You're messing with my head now. Thank God Stell's not the manager. I don't know what I've done wrong there. Eamon, I would take Souček out and I would play 4-1-2-3 with Rice protecting the back 4 and have Pac and Benny in the 2, Cornet on the left, Antonio on the right, and Scamacca up top. Interesting. Mice, whatever the formation, the intent is the same. Hoof it to Antonio. Well, I'm suggesting here that I've messed up. I'm suggesting here that Antonio won't start on Saturday. I don't think he will, considering that he's coming back from America. He'll be playing late at night. I think he'll be on the bench. Sorry about my counting. I really screwed up. Good evening to you. Who just said I'm late? Because I tell you what, you've missed a whole load of. Let's go back up for a minute. Don't delete it. It's great. It's not great. It's absolutely awful. I've really, really screwed up. How am I counting? I don't know. I've messed up and I apologize because I couldn't count. Hammerette. Funniest thing to happen since you shut yourself in the toilet on holiday to get on a stream style. Shut up. I didn't do that. My Stel gets mass help from Kamikawa. Kwarteng. God, he's fucked up the country, just like I fucked up my lineup. Look, I'm sorry about that. That's my starting 11. I could go on all night, but I've completely thrown myself off. So there's my starting 11. I'd have Kerrer at the back. I'd have Dawson in if he's fit enough, Emerson, and with 3 in the middle with Paquetá, Downs, and Declan, and then 3 up front with Bowen, with Bowen on the bench, and Benrahma and Cornet supporting Scamacca. I've messed up. I feel embarrassed. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what else to say because it's kind of thrown me completely. So what else can I say apart from read your comments? I'm not a legend. I'm a screw up. Todd Bowley and Stel, same WhatsApp group. Henry, we've all seen it anyway. Can't delete your lack of math skills. I know, mate. I will delete it. I will go in and edit this video without a doubt. Okay, that's it, really. Apart from fucking up tonight, what a way to finish the show. There's my start. I'll tell you what, let's finish with, give me your starting 11 and I can read those out and then see how many of you screw up like I did. So give me your starting 11. That would be good. All we need is a hostage video, mate. After that tonight, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Hammerhead, 6 + 4 + a keeper equals 11. I know. I don't know what I've done, but there you go. So give me, to finish off, give me your starting 11. That would be great. How am I counting? I don't know. Chris, Areola, Kerrer, Dawson, Zuma, Creswell, Downs, Declan, Paquetá, Cornet, Scamacca. It's 10 there still. I know. That was my 10. That was the 10. Oops. Have I got that? No, I've actually gotten rid of it, so I can't put it up. I messed up, so there you go. But now I've got it right. I've got 11 on the pitch now. But will Moyes do it? I don't know. Look, let's get serious for a minute. Will David Moyes pick different players to what he did in the last game against Everton? I don't think he's got a choice. I don't think he's got a choice. You know, going back to being serious again, if you look at the players that I've talked about, let's go back to all the slides. On the right side, Soufal. I just don't think Soufal. I just think Soufal does need a rest. Like I said, against in the Czech Republic team, he didn't do too well this week. They're playing again tomorrow, but I think I would put Kehrer in there. On the left side, you could argue. I think it will be Creswell, but I'd like to see Emerson play on the left side. And then in central midfield, like I said earlier, the biggest choice to make is going to be about who plays centrally alongside Declan. And I think that will be the choice he'll make. I think he will go for Flynn Downs. Or if not Flynn Downs, then certainly another player alongside Declan that won't be Souček. Maybe Lanzini, maybe even Fornals. But I like to think that he's going to play Downs alongside Declan on Saturday. On the right side, he's got to drop Bowen. I don't think he's really got much choice. I just don't think he's going to be able to keep Bowen in the lineup at the weekend. And then on the left side, not because he's a bad player, like I said, but I think without a shadow of a doubt, Benrahma should be starting. And Fornals, make space for him in the middle, maybe instead of Downs, like I said. And then in attack, I think he's got to play a strike. He's got to play Scamacca in attack. Scamacca looked quite sharp in the game against England for Italy. Antonio is going to be knackered. He's going to be flying back quite late from the game in America for Jamaica. So I think Antonio will be on the bench. And then you take your pick for goalie. I think as far as Areola is concerned, he's got the much better distribution between the two players. And I think that suits. So rather than hoofing it up to Antonio, like a lot of people have been saying, I think it suits to have Areola because it suits the style of play that we have. He's much more controlled in his distribution. So there you go. I've tried to make amends for my 11. My 11. Areola in goal. Will Moyes do it? I think he'll play Fabianski. Kehrer on the right side. He'll probably play Soufal. Dawson. He'll probably be on the bench with Kehrer. This is Moyes. Kehrer playing in central. On the left side, it will be Creswell, although I want Emerson. In the middle of the park, will he drop Souček? I think he'll have to. If he makes one change, if nothing else, I think that's the change that he has to make. Take Souček out of the firing line and put Downs in there. And then in attack, like I've said, I feel sorry for Fornals playing on the left side. I think Bowen needs to be taken out of the firing line, and I will change the whole front lineup and put those three in. Cornet, Scamacca, and Benrahma. Right. What have you got? Snazzy. Areola. So you agree with me. Areola, Kehrer, Dawson, Zuma, Emerson, Downs, Rice, Paquetá, Benny, Cornet, and Antonio. So the only difference there is Antonio over Scamacca. Pat Holland fans. Areola, Dawson, Rice, Scamacca. That is my 11. Henry. Fabianski instead of Areola. Kehrer, Dawson, Zuma, Emerson. Rice, Downs, Paquetá, Cornet, Scamacca, Benrahma. So the only difference there is Fabianski over Areola. Trodge. Fabianski, Kehrer, Dawson, Zuma, Creswell, Downs, Rice, Paquetá, Cornet, Benny, Antonio. Interesting. A lot of you still going with Antonio. Do you think that players like Paquetá suit a player like Antonio? Or do you think they'll play much easier alongside Scamacca? Dabs. I would go with the same lineup you still, not the 10 though. Foe, no chance. Same lineup again, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to do it. I really don't. Henry, no point saying Areola because Fab will start. Eamon, he needs to be more attacking from the off. I agree with that. Neil, Moyes won't change that many players. He will have a breakdown. You might be right. So, like I've done tonight. Still, it made a great show. You never slow down, step back, Stu. I know. Maybe that's why, because I go too fast. Hammer it. Moyes will go for Fabianski, Soufal, Zuma, Agurd. Agurd's not fit. Where are you getting Agurd from at the moment? He's not. He won't be ready for Saturday. I'll be very surprised. Creswell, Rice, Souček, Paquetá, Bowen, Scamacca, Fornals. That's a mix. Soufal, Zuma, Agurd, Cressy. Agurd won't be fit enough. He'll probably play Kehrer instead of Agurd. Creswell. So you're going to go for Rice, Souček, So you're keeping Souček in there. A Gerd ain't ready yet. A Gerd ain't ready yet. Is Bowen's head in Liverpool? I don't know, mate. I don't know, but it worries me that if Bowen does play, it worries me that maybe Moyes has learnt nothing really. Trini, I hope Moyes does make changes for his sake. If he does not and we lose, can't honestly see him lasting much longer. Hammerette, still, I think I speak for everyone here when I say you are not. I am embarrassed. Wasn't great. Doesn't always have to be strict info. Can be fun too. I'm embarrassed. It was shit. But thank you, Sharky, Fons, Alfonso, Emerson, Zuma, Dawson, Kerr, Downs, Rice, Benrahma, Paquetá, Skamaka. You've got the same as me there. Good night to you, Pat. Well, at least you're all laughing, which is important. Agree with the lineup. Thanks, Allied. If you were on earlier, you would have seen the mess I was in earlier on. You wouldn't have known what the hell I was doing. Chris, I agree with the 10 still. Would maybe sit Paquetá in front of Downs and Rice rather than flat across. Yeah, you could do that. I didn't think too much about actual formation, but yes, you could do that. Have him just in front, definitely. Who else we got? More thumbs up for Stel. Don't think I'm getting any thumbs up tonight. Keith, remember, friends, if you can't sleep tonight, try counting West Ham players rather than sheep. Shrodge, I guess Antonio might be better as a super sub if he's jet lagged. He's often poor after travelling. Absolutely agree. Bowen won't get anywhere near Liverpool if he keeps playing the way he is. Don't want him to go anywhere near Liverpool. Beanie, you are, yes, all laughing at you. You are all laughing at me. I'm human. That was a complete balls up, though, I must admit. That's it. I can't go on anymore. Thank you for saving me and for making me realise I had it right in the first place. There you go. That's a short show. I'm going to be back. If you guys have yet to subscribe to Disabled Team, don't watch it from the start. I'm telling you, you'll be disappointed. We're disabled. There you go. Don't watch it from the start. Sorry, Stel. That's all right. If you haven't become a subscriber to the website, 6foot2.co.uk, or a member, should I say, please do so. Where I'm doing a show every day. It's a pre-recorded show. Trust me, I don't fuck it up the way I fucked up tonight. I'm doing a pre-recorded show every day to give you the daily news that comes from 6foot2.co.uk. It's a great website. You have all your information for West Ham in one website. So we link to every other website, so you don't have to scroll through other websites to get your information. You can do it all from one central source at 6foot2.co.uk. Membership is free. There are more things on there than just your usual West Ham website. You know, you do have the latest updates. There's news stories. There's podcast links. There's also links to videos that we do more than just on Claret and Booze and West Ham Voice as well. But also you get the West Ham history page that Nigel Khan does, which is full of stuff that is really, really interesting about the history of West Ham. And that's well worth a read as well. So if you haven't become a member, 6foot2.co.uk, do so. James, I'm going to leave you with a few more comments. Gosh, I'm pissed, but Fabiola for sure with Ricochet and Jamaican Brazilians in it. Didn't understand any of that, but thank you. Good night, everyone. Much appreciated. Thank you for joining. Thank you for putting up with my absolute balls up. I really appreciate it. Sleep well. See you soon. And we'll talk very soon. And I won't mess up like that again.